Today we're going deep into the ominous and horrifying past that served as the inspiration for The Revenant, one of the most violent and disturbing movies in recent memory. However, be advised that the real tale behind this masterpiece of film is even more terrifying than you could ever think. So buckle up and get ready for a surprise. Welcome to Animal Attack Files, subscribe and let's dive in. First, we see what drives a person to survive in the harshest of conditions. That was the question Mexican director Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu kept turning over in his mind during the making of his forthcoming film, The Revenant. He intended to narrate an epic story about a man who goes beaver hunting on the Missouri River, gets attacked by a bear, and his group of fur trappers abandons him for dead. This man is so angry at being left behind that he musters the will to crawl 200 miles in the direction of his disloyal companions to get retribution. The tragedy and violence of the story are largely attributed to The Revenant. It was the American frontier in the 1820s, a place where the elements themselves and the vast, uncontrolled environment were ever-present enemies. Hugh Glass's incredible story took place against the backdrop of this brutal, cruel place. Huge uninhabited wilderness, craggy mountain ranges, thick woods, and dangerous rivers define the huge and ominous American frontier. It was a world in which everyday struggles to survive were the rule of nature. The wide, barren landscapes of the frontier were home to many perils, such as Native American tribes and grizzly bears, each posing a unique set of difficulties for intrepid travelers. Extreme weather was prevalent in the area, with sweltering summers that tried the fortitude of those who dared to venture into the wild and bitter winters that brought bone-chilling cold and copious amounts of snow. Hugh Glass's horrific ordeal took place in this wild and unforgiving terrain, making it a pivotal point in the narrative of his escape and the ensuing quest for vengeance. The environment of The Revenant serves as a terrifying reminder of both the extreme cruelty of nature and the enormous obstacles faced by those who attempted to subdue it. Glass and his friends came upon a massive, furious grizzly bear in the wilderness of the American frontier in the 1820s. The bear attacked Glass viciously in defense of her cubs, mauling him with unbelievable vigor. Glass suffered severe injuries such as deep gashes, exposed ribs, and a broken leg. The bear attacked with unrelenting intensity, causing horrific injuries. Glass was left on the verge of death by fellow trappers John Fitzgerald and Jim Bridger following the brutal grizzly attack. They decided to leave Glass behind out of self-preservation since they thought his wounds were too severe for him to recover. Glass was not only abandoned, his friends took everything from him, including his weapons and gear, leaving him helpless and unable to make it through the unforgiving wilderness. This betrayal was not just heartless, but also potentially fatal. Glass had been left for dead. The harsh circumstances of the American frontier in the 1820s, the truth of this abandoning is even more stunning. It was a location where the natural world was harsh and daily fights for survival was the norm. Now injured beyond belief, Glass was left to fend for himself against the elements, raptors, and hostile Native American tribes. After suffering severe injuries and being abandoned in the harsh American wilderness, Glass undertook an incredible trek to survive. He had to rely solely on his determination and creativity to overcome the odds because he had a shattered leg, serious cuts, and exposed ribs. His trip was nothing short of remarkable. Throughout his ordeal, Glass had to drag and crawl hundreds of miles across a brutal landscape. He foraged for sustenance by consuming uncooked meat and vegetation, frequently depending on the remains of animals he came upon. He even had to cauterize his wounds by lighting gunpowder with a spark and searing the flesh to stop fatal sepsis because his wounds were now prone to infection. Glass was traveling through dangerous terrain with dangerous animals, severe weather, and the possibility of famine and infection. He was effectively traveling alone through the harsh terrain of the American frontier in the 1820s, where the smallest mistake might spell disaster. The fact that Glass eventually traveled a remarkable distance and made it back to society is what makes his adventure so remarkable. This required not just physical toughness, but also an unbreakable will to face the atrocities he had experienced. Hugh Glass's real-life story is a powerful illustration of the human spirit's ability to persevere in the face of adversity. Glass found Fitzgerald and Bridger, after all, but he took an unexpected stand when it came time to face the consequences. He had experienced a horrific betrayal, but he decided not to kill them. Glass spared Bridger, displaying an unbelievably high degree of empathy and forgiveness. He understood that the younger Bridger shouldn't receive the same punishment because he had been impacted by Fitzgerald's choices. But Glass showed no sympathy at all to Fitzgerald, the mastermind of the betrayal. In a terrifying turn of events, he brutally retaliated by having Fitzgerald endure the same suffering that he had. Fitzgerald was subjected to terrible beatings and humiliation as part of the punishment. This act of retaliation was a difficult and ethically dubious turning point in Glass's development. The extent of his anguish and the severe psychological and emotional damage caused by his abandonment and near-death experience were highlighted by it. Hugh Glass's amazing survival and his thirst for vengeance are only two aspects of the chilling legacy left by the events that inspired the Revenant and his suffering. This is the tale of a man whose life was being impacted long after the ordeal of the horrors he encountered on the American frontier. After the arduous events he went through, Glass's life was full of more tragedies and obstacles. He carried on as an explorer and trapper, regularly running into perilous circumstances and sometimes fatal interactions with wildlife and Native American groups. His life was a monument to the unrelenting cruelty of the environment, as well as to unwavering resolve and an unbreakable spirit. In one very horrific episode, Glass was taken prisoner by the Pawnee tribe and held in cruel conditions. He was subjected to abhorrent conditions such as torture, isolation, and continual fear of death. He miraculously survived this terrible circumstance, demonstrating his unwavering resolve to live. The psychological wounds that Glass carried with him throughout his life are also a part of his legacy. His mental state was permanently damaged by the trauma of being abandoned and almost dying at the hands of his friends, the unrelenting physical pain he went through, and the atrocities he saw in the wild. It serves as a chilling reminder of the lifelong effects that an experience like this can have on a person. The real lesson to be learned from Hugh Glass's story is perseverance and overcoming great adversity. It illustrates how resilient people can be in the face of extreme adversity. However, it also acts as a terrifying reminder of the unrelenting violence of the American frontier in the 1820s, when there was little difference between life and death, and when the lasting effects of such an encounter included delusions and unshakable resolve. Glass's tale, with all of its tragedies and victories, serves as a tribute to the human spirit's tenacity in the face of unfathomable hardship. The horrifying true story behind The Revenant is a tale of survival, betrayal, and forgiveness. While the movie captured the essence of Hugh Glass's harrowing journey, the real events were even more chilling and inspiring. It's a reminder that sometimes reality can be more terrifying than fiction. Thank you for watching. Follow for more.